So today, what I'm covering is this: delegation, the key to law firm owners' extraordinary profitability while freeing up their time. And who's this for to begin with? So if you operate in the legal industry and you have people that deliver legal solutions that you bill out at an hourly rate, or if you're self-employed and looking to grow your law firm, then this is for you. This also very much applies to anyone who's a CEO of what I call a B2B services business. So any kind of service that you provide to another business that requires predominantly human beings, then this is going to be great for you. So I want to start off with this statement here, and I'm just going to have to move these things around because it won't let me see everything at once. Okay, there we go. So delegating effectively is the most vital skill a law firm owner needs to master to build a highly profitable business that also gives them a satisfying work-life balance. If there's one thing that I'd be delighted that each of you took away from this webinar tonight, it's the importance and the value of learning delegating effectively. It's quite simple. If you're a solo practitioner and you're charging £300 an hour, you can only charge, you can only earn a certain amount of money when you're overworked and you've had enough and you don't want to work anymore. But let's say you employ a second fee earner and they cost you £100 an hour, but you're billing them out at £300 an hour. For every hour that you work and they work, you're billing £600 and the business is making £500, give or take other expenses. And that formula just goes up and up and up from there. And once you get this, you'll see that it's possible to have people in your team delivering very high standards of work, impacting your clients' lives in a really satisfying and fulfilling way, whilst you get to work a lot less and still enjoy amazing profit margins. And that's predominantly what I'm looking at covering in this webinar tonight. So, but why listen to me? Like, okay, Manjula has kindly invited you to this, but you must be wondering, who are you, Dan? Well, this is my brand, Dan Warburton, and this is what I eat, breathe, and sleep, greatly increasing law firm owners' profit and freeing up their time. That's all I do. And I'll get to why I've ended up doing this. But I've now got 15 years experience and I've coached over 1,000 ambitious individuals, professionals. And I'm also accredited by Credible Coach, and that's based on past client results. So Credible Coach, they went to my website, they went to my landing pages and they looked at the testimonials and then they said, can you prove that this is true? And I gave these individuals contact details and then they went and called them and emailed them to check that what I was saying about them really were results that they got for real from working with me. And as a result of that, which was a very thorough process, I passed and I'm now accredited and recognized by the Credible Coach. So what I'm sharing with you today isn't just plucked out of thin air. I live this and I've got many clients that are implementing what I'm going to share with you and succeeding. And so, yeah, as you can see here, track record of success, helping clients make powerful progress. I've also got an Amazon bestseller, Dream It, Choose It, Live It. It's recommended by Robin Sharma. That's a copy of the book here. And I don't know if you recognize Robin Sharma in the image there. He's the author of The Monk Who Sold the Ferrari. So it's an honor to be recognized by him. And I now get to live this incredible lifestyle where here I am with my wife, Sophia, daughter, Ariana, who's 2, and baby daughter, Mayabel, who's 4 months old. And here I am in the south of Spain. You might have recognized there's tiles behind me, not carpet. And I just get to live this amazing lifestyle where I get to work with really ambitious people, impact their lives in a great way, help them make a shed load of money and live a good life. And I do all that from Spain online. And so I qualify myself to be in a position to guide others to build a successful business and also master work-life balance because I have that myself. So for context, can I tell you a story about what happened to me? Is that okay? I'm guessing you guys have got your cameras off, but a thumb up, is that okay? So, okay. So 15 years ago, I was in my apartment, and I've got here, I need to find a way of moving this so I can see this. So 15 years ago, there I was in this bedsit apartment, and I'd tried every single employed position under the sun. I'd tried everything from stacking shelves in supermarkets, working on building sites, cutting grass for the council. I tried everything, even McDonald's night shifts, and I just couldn't hold a job down, and I was still stuck in this tiny apartment. I had to call my father, and it was the hardest phone call I ever had to make, because the one person in my life I wanted to make proud of me was my father. And I said, Dad, I'm in this situation. I've tried so many different jobs, and I just, I need to find something else. In the meantime, would you help me out and give me some money? And he was like, no, enough's enough. You're going to have to find your own way. And he hung the phone up, and that was it. I tried everything. I was lost. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I came up with an idea. I thought, look back through your life and think about all the things that you could offer and get paid for straight away whilst keeping your clothes on, and that you could offer to people. And so I came up with this list, and I wrote this out: Super Dan services, dog walking, window cleaning, car washing, flat pack assembly, handyman work, painting and decorating. Because my dad had helped me out by giving me the odd job by helping him do up his house. So I learned a few of these things. And so what I did was I got this, and I went to the local newsagents and I photocopied it. So I had this twice side by side, and then I photocopied that again into batches of 75. I then took that home, and with a kitchen knife, I managed to cut the whole lot in half. So it gave me 150 of these flyers like this. And then that was it. The next morning, I was going to go out knocking on doors, and I hit this. It was the coldest January that Brighton had had in over 50 years. Did I let it stop me? I had no choice. I had to do this. I had to get money fast. Even my dad wasn't helping me at this point. And so I went out introducing myself, knocking on doors. If a door opened, I'd say, hello, my name is Super Dan. If any of these services interest you, then give me a call, give them a flyer. If a door didn't open, I just left the flyer. And I carried on going. And because I was printing them off at 150 at a time, I know I was just about knocking on 150 doors a day. And at one point, I had so many phone calls coming in for more work, I physically couldn't knock on another door. And then here I am, Super Dan, the handyman. I bought myself this retro 1970s motorbike. I had all the tools laid out, all miniaturized. And with one phone call, I could be anywhere and do all the little jobs that the guys in the vans wouldn't do because it wasn't worth their while. And life was good, the sun was shining, and I just carried on going. And in the end, the logistics became overwhelming. I ended up with a team of 8 people. We had matching uniforms, matching vans. My phone was ringing constantly. I'd have as many as 200 requests a day between clients, workmen needing keys to get into a property, sandbags needing delivering. Somebody didn't know what wall they were supposed to paint. Somebody couldn't find the address. It was absolute mayhem. And here I am at the peak. It became Team Super. And the truth is, I was actually really struggling. By now, I couldn't keep up with it. And the workmen started to let me down. They weren't doing the work properly. And nobody had taught me leadership. Nobody had taught me management. Nobody had taught me how to handle all these logistics. And as the money came in, and my workmen made mistakes, I had 2 choices. Do I pay the taxes, the VAT, or do I use that money to pay the workmen to repair the mistakes they made? Which do you think I did? I paid the workmen to repair the mistakes they made because I wanted to keep my reputation. And in the end, it was only a matter of time. I lost everything. H&M Revenue, I phoned them up and I said, look, I just can't pay this bill. And in the end, I owed £110,000 in tax and my personal credit cards. That's over $143,000. And they said, well, in that case, you've got to close the business. So that was it. I closed the business. And I was still living in my 1-room studio, back to square one. I didn't know what I was going to do. And this time there was no way I was going to call my dad and ask him for help. And so I invested everything in even more self-development. And I say even more because by now I'd already done a series of courses in accounting, management, leadership, communications, entrepreneurism. I got into graphic design, Photoshop work, and just carried on going. And in the midst of this, I had a life-changing insight. I started to invest in mentors that were already succeeding in their businesses in a way that I wanted to succeed. And what I realized was that it was much faster to learn from others who've already succeeded. And when I got this, I realized I'd been trying to do everything on my own. I just realized if I just work harder, if I just be harder at this, I'm going to succeed. But it was a big mistake. And I didn't know that because it was only when I found these really skilled individuals that had made all the mistakes before me that could just tell me, no, don't do that, do this, and don't do this, do that, that I then began to succeed much faster. And so the next business, excuse me, instead of trying to build it all up with little people myself, one of my mentors said, just go and find a team of people that already do all this. And you just go and get the phone ringing because you know how to do that. So I placed adverts in magazines, answered the call as 247 Drainage. And I had a company that offered 24-hour emergency drainage repairs. And it worked. The phone was ringing and ringing. And then I would just say, it's £150. We can be there in 1 hour. Okay, great. What's your name? What's your address? I put it into a text message and I texted it off to my business partner who ran the business and all the logistics. That was it. At the end of the month, I then invoiced him for 30% of the sales total I'd made. And I was in business. And there's still a video of me there talking about how we can unblock your drains in the next hour. But from there, it just went on. And I started to wonder, how far away from Brighton can I go and still take phone calls? And I realized I could go as far as Scotland, as long as I had a UK network. And then I realized, well, I wonder if I'll get reception in the Alps when I'm snowboarding. And yes, I did. So I ended up going snowboarding in the Alps. I spent time in the south of France, south of Spain, and I would just be relaxing and I'd just say, hello, 247 Drainage. It's £150. Yes, we can be there in 1 hour. And then text them the details. And I'd be snowboarding down the mountain and I'd have to stop just to take a phone call, send a text message and carry on. But my life changed completely. I had money coming in. I had the freedom to enjoy the money, and I had teams of people that were handling everything without me worrying about it. And then people started to say, can you coach me? Like my neighbor, Jonathan, said to me, Dan, like, how are you doing this? I really want to know. So I started to help him. And then I started to post online about my clients' results. And then I went networking and kept creating more clients. And then my clients would tell other people about what I do. And word of mouth, slowly, I just kept creating clients. And these are all pictures of clients that have worked with me. And these are just a few of them. These are the people that, you know, I managed to get to say something about the results they got. And then I got to have a picture of them and, you know, from their website and put it on my website. But it just carried on going. And then my dad said to me, Sunshine, what is this coaching transformational business thing you're doing? And I said, well, let me tell you about it. So this was January 2016. I sat down with him and he had a business in telecommunications, but I said to him, Dad, you're in business doing what you're doing because it's automatic. You don't know why you're doing it. You don't have a goal you're aiming for, and you're just doing it because you've got it in motion. And if you don't do it, it's just going to fall apart. So you're operating out of fear. And he said, don't you tell me that. I've been in business many more years than you have. You can't tell me that. But because of all the work I'd done on myself, the leadership, the communication, the training, I didn't react. For the first time in my life, I was able to just listen to my father. And in that space of just listening to him, he said, bloody hell, Sunshine, you're right. And he sat down and he said, you're very good at this. Have you thought about doing this professionally? I said, Dad, I already am. It's what I do. He said, really? And so that just became the beginning of an amazing relationship with my father. And he then became one of my clients. And then I coached him on how to grow his business internationally. And a couple of years ago, he was invited as the keynote speaker at the Interferry conference, one of the biggest conferences in Europe, to speak about his data communication systems within the ferry industry. And I coached him over the delivery of that, how to handle the audience and do all of it. And it was such an honor to give back to my father. And even today, I cannot believe it that my dad asked me for advice on business. I just still don't understand it, but that's how it is now. And then because of this lifestyle and then coaching these clients, of course, I do it all online. I was free. So I just started traveling, and friends of mine in London said, we're going networking in Singapore. I said, that's quite far, isn't it? He said, yeah, it's a 14-hour flight. I said, you're going on a 14-hour flight just for networking? He said, yeah, we're going to meet the organizers of Success Resources. I said, who are they? They said, they're the world's biggest speaker events organizers. And if we get in with them, we get to speak in front of massive audiences all over the world. Tony Robbins, they organize all their events, for instance. So I said, yeah, great, let's do it. So I got on this plane and I went out and I saw so much opportunity that I committed to moving out there. So I flew back, got rid of my flat, sold everything I owned, got one suitcase, one-way ticket to Singapore. But it was fine because my business was online. I could do this. And in the end, I became the sales trainer for Success Resources head office team in Singapore. And then from them, I was then guiding them on how to lead events. So here I am speaking at stage with them. That's their brand, Success Resources. And from there, the audiences just got bigger and bigger. And here I am in India. This was an audience of about 200 people. This was another event. And then Taiwan with another event organizers. I'm coaching them around entrepreneurism and things like that. And then here I am, 4,000 people in Vietnam, Super Dan the handyman on stage. I mean, you couldn't make this up. And I was loving my lifestyle. And then I got invited to give these trainings for banks. This is a major bank in Singapore, CIMB. And I was training them on culture and communication and how to create effective teamwork. And then I was invited in England, speak at some nice posh events here alongside this guy called Armand Morin. He's worth billions now. So to be headlining alongside him was an honor. And to cut this short, my clients who got the best results were in the legal sector. So of all the clients that I work with, the clients that seem to get the best results were the ones that were in the legal profession. And I think it's because in the legal industry, you're taught to study heavy blocks of text and law, and then go and have somebody who has a problem send you this letter that's their problem. You're supposed to understand it, break it down, and then give advice on how they're supposed to respond or respond on their behalf and manage whatever happens after that. And at no point does somebody says, if you keep doing that on your own, you're going to get burnt out and exhausted and really tired and fed up of it. And so what you need to do is learn leadership and how to build up a team of people so that then they can do this for you instead, or leave the law firm you're in and go and do it yourself and build up a team. They never say this, and how you build up a team is, and how you delegate, you do this, this, and this. That's never taught. None of it is. Whereas all my background has been doing exactly that, building effective teams that carry out the requests we make of them to create great results. And so when I then brought all this knowledge and skill that I brought into the legal industry actually inspires me, because without the legal industry, we'd be in great difficulty. Like the world would be a mess. So it honors me to be able to serve people in the legal industry, because I think the work you do is so valuable. So it inspires me as well. And so this is my brand, greatly increasing law firm owners' profit and freeing up their time. So this now gives you an idea of the circle that I've made. And I've recently written this book, and Manjula gave you a link to the first digital copy, which is just on a Google sheet at the moment. So if you want to have a read of that, I break down this formula here, the lawyer who gets the cream formula. And this is what I've discovered is required to create $200,000 or more in a year, plus dramatically increasing profit and freeing up your time as a small law firm owner. And these are the 5 sections covered in the book. First, set vision-aligned quarterly financial and lifestyle target plan. So what this is this is basically how do you dream your lifestyle to be in 3 years from today? And then what needs to happen in the next year for you to be on track for that? And then what needs to happen in the next 90 days to be on track for that? And then part 2, set and repeat 7-day focused action plan. So that then every week, you know exactly what action you need to take this week to be on track for the 1 year, to be on track for the 3-year dream target. And that's what this book goes deeper into. And then part 3, to achieve that vision, you can't do it alone. You need a team. But how many people in your team do you need to hit that financial target that you have? You need to calculate that to know what you're building. And so number 3 is design an ideal team plan. And then number 4, delegate in the right order. So that's what I'm going to be taking you guys into a deeper look at, is this part of this formula, because of all of it, this is the most beneficial to your success, both financially, but also to creating that work-life balance. And then finally, automated sales systems. So this is where you have structures where you focus on creating more work out of existing clients first and foremost, and then escalating up to outreach and different strategies of creating clients when you really want to expand the business. But for today, we're going to focus on number 4, delegate in the right order. So, as I said earlier, this is why we're focusing on it, because delegating effectively is the most vital skill a law firm owner needs to master to build a highly profitable business that also, I can't see that part of my text, that also gives them a satisfying work-life balance. So for effective and profitable delegation, you need to practice these 5 elements. So let's get into it. Gain loyalty. Unless you have loyalty from your team members, nothing happens. But how do you gain loyalty? You gain loyalty with a foundation of listening. So let me break this down for you so it's actually tangible. So when someone speaks, you're not thinking. So think of an argument or a heated discussion you had with somebody recently. Can you think of a heated discussion you had with somebody recently? As you think of that, bring yourself back to it. You'll probably recognize yourself that when they were saying something, you were trying to think, I've really got to, I must, if they don't do this, if I don't get to do that, and that's thinking. That's not being with them. So it's listening is not doing that. And it's not calculating. It's not calculating, oh, if they don't do this, this is going to happen to me. Or if this doesn't happen in time, that's going to, you know, or what else is it I need them to do? That's calculating. That's not listening. And it's not waiting for your turn. So usually when other people are speaking, not even in a heated environment, many of us are so used to looking good, impressing, or being right, that we're just waiting for them to stop so that we can say the right thing that has us look good and win the day or win the moment or be the hero. And again, that's not listening. It's actually listening, is what listening is. It's becoming so present with that human being that you don't know what time it is. You have no idea where your mobile phone is or what notification is going on. Everything that's urgent in your life just completely disappears. And you, in that moment, become the definition listening. And what happens is in that moment, that human being feels heard. And most of us in life go through life not being heard, not being listened to. And that's why we have a lot of the breakdowns that we currently have around the world, with wars and all sorts. But fundamentally, what happens is, when that person feels like you've heard them, it touches something deep inside them. They feel respected, they feel cared for, they feel valued. And at that point, you have loyalty. People think loyalty is something that you can only gain over years. It happens nearly instantly. Nearly instantly. If you've got a big track record of having let somebody down, it's going to take more work than that. But usually, if you really listen to somebody, if somebody says, look, you're an effing idiot and you just do what you want around this place, you don't care about the team, to that, what you say is, I get that to you I behave in this way and not, you know, I'm letting the team down. I get it. I really get that you feel that way and that I am that way to you. And it's so hard to say that in the moment, but that's their experience. And unless we have them get that we've that we get what they're saying, whether it's completely miles off, ridiculous, whatever, then the conversation doesn't move forward and you don't create the loyalty, which is the foundation that you need to have any kind of team that's going to be effective to work with you. Manjula, what would you say about
that? Totally agree. It's that that trust. Maybe use slightly different language in the psychological arena, but without the interpersonal listening, that means paying attention to the whole person, the body language, the facial expressions, the tone of voice, all of that. You have to be listening really closely to get that.
Yeah. And you can, and it's true that we feel it when somebody's really listening to us, don't we?
Definitely. And so I do an awful lot of mock interviews with people, and that's the kind of feedback that some of you who've been through that with me will perhaps recall. It's the impact you have through your listening. They're not the immediate things. People don't have to say things. It's that emotional engagement.
Yeah, well said. And how powerful in interviews, as the interviewer, you're practicing listening on a deep level, and you're having your prospects acknowledge you and say that's what they felt when they've been interviewed by that. That's how a rare quality it is, that when it's there, people mention it and speak it out loud. Yeah. It says a lot about you, Manjula. Well done. Really good. Really good. Okay. So let me give you an example around listening. So let me go back here. So here's Carlos, and he came to me 5 months ago. One of my clients said, you've got to have a conversation with Carlos. She connected us. We had a conversation. He runs a law firm in California, and that's his partner, Jenna. And they've got this team of 8. And he was working some weeks as much as 100 hours. Totally crazy. And he said, it doesn't matter how many people I keep employing, I'm always the one that has to catch the balls before they hit the ground. I need to review the work, and I find so many blunders and mistakes. I end up staying late into the night to fix their mistakes before we submit it to the client. And as we got deeper into this, what we realized was that he was making he wasn't making straight requests of his team members. We'll get into what is a request later. But also, he had it set up that everybody was reporting to him and Jenna. So at all time around the week, he was receiving emails, text messages, pretty much all hours apart from the middle of the night. And that meant that he was constantly having to reactively respond and do what I call advising. And it meant that he built up this culture where everybody kept relying on him to advise them on what to do. And so what we did was we created this structure where he would set a regular weekly meeting with his key members and say, outside of this meeting, unless absolutely necessary, you do not text me, email me, or anything. Now, obviously, what was necessary, such as emails, they still happen, but his text went from 200 a day to 5 or 10 some days. And then in those meetings, they would have built up a list of everything that's on their mind, and he would run through it all with them. But instead of advising, he would say, great question. What do you think the solution is? So I taught him how to question and guide the individual to find the solution themselves. That's a whole different level of communication we could go into there. But what made the difference was that when they said, oh, this is too much, or this system doesn't work, or I don't understand this, he listened. He just began listening and really getting their troubles and their worries. And in that, he was then able to work with them to create the solutions they needed. And as a result of that, he went from working over 90 hours a week to 45 hours per week. That's in just over 3 months. But his company's revenues are increasing. So he's now getting to work less whilst his company revenues are getting to increase. And the major thing that made that possible was the fact that through listening, he distinguished a series of things that were missing in the systems in his business that he didn't know were missing. And because he was creating the weekly time to actually have these meetings to check in and find out what it was they needed and then help them get it, it totally transformed his business. Does that make sense, Manjula?
So he was being the oil in the wheels rather than actually the engine that kept on pushing them.
if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, he's getting things done through others, and that's very much central to coaching. It's investing in developing your staff so that they can eventually be good enough to displace you, and not being threatened by that, seeing that as a positive rather than a threat.
A threat, yeah, very good. And he was always trying to elbow his way in, and before like things fell apart. But when he started to step back a little bit, he found the balls were starting to be caught before they hit the ground. Yeah, but of course he would have only got there when he'd listened to his staff and had them feel heard, so that then during the meetings as well, it created this environment where everyone's freely expressing how they feel, and he's just listening, not judging, not trying to fix them, not trying to do anything, just listening and having them feel heard, and then co-creating or co-acting together on what he'd then heard. Yeah, really good. Okay, delegation element number 2. So straight requests. If it's not clear, it won't get done. Now, many of us think when we've asked somebody to do something, we think we've asked them, but often we haven't, because there's some clear criteria to what distinguishes a request. A straight request includes a clear result. So when you make a request of somebody, can you do this? What is that exactly? Yeah. We've had a new inquiry coming from this client. Could you please have a look at it and summarize it for me in 10 bullet points, and then send me a message to arrange a call so we can work out how to best work on that. So that's the clear result you're looking for. It's an email 10 bullet point list on this new inquiry that's coming in this client to define what's needed. The second thing, it's still not a request now though. Most people think that's a request. No, that's still not a request. Why? Because what's missing is a time frame. Can you do this for me by 9 p.m. this evening? Can you do this for me by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning? Or if that feels too uncomfortable, the art is to say, by when can you do that for me? And in doing that, you have them say, I can do it for the next hour. So, okay, great, in the next hour. The next point, of course, is has agreement. A request is only a complete delivered request if the person you're making a request of has agreed to you to the result that they're going to achieve, to the time frame as well. Yeah, because if they haven't agreed to it, it's like, can you do that for me? And they walk out the room, you don't know whether it's going to get done. It needs to have verbal agreement. And if it's a bit technical, it's really good to say, okay, just to check that I've worded this correctly, not that you've heard me, always standing in responsibility, just to check I've worded this correctly. Could you just repeat to me what it is I've asked you to do? Ah, yes, great, very good. Then that way, you know you have very clear agreement and there's just no fluff. That's the point here, no fluff. You'll often hear bosses struggle to make clear requests because they're so worried about what people think of them. They're so worried about getting it wrong. They're so worried about being discovered that they're under a lot of stress and they don't know how the hell they're going to navigate everybody through what's going on. And so they start saying things like, hey, how you doing? Did you have a good weekend? Oh, yeah, great, fantastic. Just wondering, I know you're probably quite busy. I've got a couple of things that you might be able to help me out on. Do you think at some point we could schedule a time to spend? And it just goes on and on. It's so full of fluff. It should just be, hi, how you doing? Do you have a good weekend? Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Okay, we've had a new inquiry come in. Can you break it down into 10 bullet points? And can you do that for me in the next 2 hours? And that's it. With them agreeing, well, there's a different way they might agree, and we'll get into that. But there you have it. That's a clear request. And if it doesn't have these elements, it's not a request and it's full of fluff. Simple as that. And then you get mixed results. What do you think of this, Manjula?
I was going to say, I'm nodding because this is the sort of stuff that I say to people when you're preparing for your judicial role play. You know, have a clear introduction and explain really clearly the order of events, and make it upfront clear that these are the rules, the ground rules for operating. Let them know when you're due to finish, and have a subtle warning, but don't call it a warning, just get that agreement that Dan's talking about in terms of, so we should finish by this time, but that is subject to everyone, you know, speaking one at a time, no interruptions. And, you know, that way everyone can be engaged in the final decision that I make. So you could start practicing that kind of clear communication and straight request, direct communication before you get to the role play.
Yeah, very good. It's fascinating how this applies to your industry so much. Yeah, brilliant. Great, Manjula, really good. So straight request, here's another example. So Kim came to me 3 years ago, self-employed HR lawyer, was working over 70 hours a week, was overweight, burnt out, exhausted, was on this treadmill where she'd become renowned for being reliable, delivering the work, but she did everything herself, and the work came in and piled up, and she'd have mountains of work piling up, and she would just attack it each day. And however much she attacked it, she could never seem to get through it. And so she heard me speak at an event in Haywards Heath, and afterwards said, I wonder if you could help me. And sure enough, we met up at the Grand Hotel in Brighton, and we went into business. She became one of my clients, and we began to work through this. And now she has her first 2 employees. But before this, it wasn't possible because she tried employing people before. And because she wasn't making straight requests of them, she wasn't able to get them to step up effectively. And initially, she was trying to delegate out what we call VA work, which is admin and things like that. But through working with me, what she realized is it's the other way around. You need to start delegating out the hardest work that you do, which is the fee earning work. Because in that process, once your fee earner that you've employed starts to take over that work from you, they then create admin. Naturally, they then have to handle that admin because they're the creators of that admin. And then that way, it's much easier to make a straight request of somebody with something that they understand the ins and outs of. But what made her success possible was making straight requests. And she started to implement this time frame, exactly what she needed doing, and no fluff, just being really straight with people. And for her, it was so weird and so awkward to do this at first because she felt she was being almost like a bit of a bully. But she learned that it wasn't being a bully. She's paying these people a good wage. She has, you know, the agreement to make requests of them and to have them work as a team. And this is a graph of us working together. So after we'd worked together for 12 months, this was some of the targets she achieved. So as you can see, before we worked together, she was averaging between around about £3,000-4,000 sale a month. But then throughout, you know, the time afterwards, she was averaging around about 10,000-15,000. But as you can see here, it worked out at a 310% average monthly revenue increase. Good, right? And then it totaled an extra £192,041 revenue in 12 months. So the way we arrived at that was we looked at her performance for the 12 months before she implemented all the strategies that we put together. We then added all that up, subtracted that from her total sales from the year after that, and then that's the figure we were left with. So this is above her predictable revenue or sales total she would have made. And over 80% of that was profit margin. Because most lawyers, they say to me, oh yeah, very good getting all that extra revenue, but I bet she absolutely worked her ass off. No, over 80% of that was profit margin because the people she was employing were, you know, obviously on a lower rate, but she went from working 70 hours to only 35 hours a week and still got those results. So as you're watching this, I want you to get the power of what I'm sharing with you here. Straight requests cut straight through everything and has businesses move forwards so much faster and so much more successfully. Does that make sense to you, Manjula?
Definitely to me. I don't know about everyone else, but you know, half the hours and making more money especially if you're thinking about a judicial role, you know, if you think about some of these strategies and you do have in mind as a long-term vision to become a full-time DJ of some sort, or a full-time anything, then delegation, effective delegation, is through those straight requests. And so the competency of managing work efficiently, that last one that people say, oh, I haven't got anything exciting to say about that one, I haven't got an example. Well, everyone has, because you're up against it. We've always got more to do than time to do it in. And it's harnessing a mixture of harnessing technology and delegating other activities that, you know, you have to work out your hourly rate. Is it worth you doing certain things given other tasks are, you know, not really are not using your strengths to their best effect?
Yeah, very good. And of course, with that extra time, you're then able to prepare for judicial appointment. Yeah,
and you know, apply your skill and knowledge and experience where it's needed more.
Yeah, great. Yeah, brilliant. Nice. Okay. Delegation element 3. So, freedom to choose. Without giving freedom, it's manipulation. Freedom to choose. Without giving freedom, it's manipulation. So, always give 3 options with each request you make. So, when you make a straight request of someone, always give these 3 options. Simple as this: accept, decline, or counter offer. That's it. Because if you do this, you're expecting that human being and you're saying, can you do this by 9 p.m. tomorrow? Accept, decline, or counter offer. They're either going to say, yes, great, I can take that on. Fantastic. We're in agreement. Request completed. It's happening. We can now expect that by 9 p.m. tomorrow. Decline. If they decline it, say, okay, I get that you decline it. Can I ask why? And it might be, I don't have the resources to do that. Or it's a part of the legal industry I don't have enough understanding of, or whatever it is. And then you can help them find a solution to that. Then you can remake the request again. And then this time again, it'll be accept or decline. Or it could be counter offer. I can't do it by 9 p.m. tomorrow, but I can do it by the day after 10 a.m. Is that okay? Great, fantastic. Agreed. We can now expect it the day after at 10 a.m. Or they might say, can I do this bit and then I'll make a request of somebody else in the team to do the rest of it? Okay, who else are you going to ask? You make sure everybody's in agreement. Fantastic. Okay, we're doing that and we've got the time frame. And if you do this, you'll always leave your employees or team members with this feeling of, I've always got the freedom to choose. I'm never pressurized. You know, and well, what do you think, Manjula? Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. It's really simple, actually, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I think so far that's something I haven't used before. I've always, when you started talking about 3 options, I thought you were going to say 2 is a dilemma, 3 is a choice, 1 is an order. Yeah, but actually this is quite useful to think. Applies to anything really, doesn't it? Any walk in life.
Yeah, and when people then start to know you as somebody that has the air of, you can either accept, decline, or counter offer to all my requests, they start to feel safe around you. They start to feel like they can discuss what's on their mind, and that just creates this amazing working relationship. Loyalty's there, and yeah, it's really great.
It's fair enough, isn't it? It's like
it's like, you're paying them for it. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're going to give them room to take advantage. You know, they've got a commitment. You've got to agree targets that you're all aiming for as a team, as such. You know, but generally, this gives space for amazing communication. So let me give you an example. So Yvonne came to me and she was having back problem because she was working so much and sitting at her computer. She also wanted to lose weight, and she's not in the legal industry. She offers training programs for individuals that want to grow their business through LinkedIn outreach and marketing. And we began working together and looking at her dynamics of how she was communicating with her team. So here she is, and this was her team that she had below her. And Pollyanna directly below, she found that the work that she was doing as a senior digital content writer wasn't to the standard that she could just release straight to the client. So she always had to end up doing extra work on it. And it just took up so much more of her time. But once she learned to make straight requests and to give individuals the choice to accept, decline, or counter offer, she got to understand what was going on for them. And some of them had worries that she didn't know about, that she was then able to help them resolve. And with doing that, Pollyanna was then able to deliver the work directly to the client because she saw an improvement in what she does. Same with the rest of the team members. And it meant that she all of a sudden didn't have to review all this work. And it's now going straight, it's going straight to her employees, who's then delivering it straight to the client. And she just does a random check. And as a result, she got to work less and spend a lot more time with her husband. She got to go traveling, spend time on beaches, Florida as well. Here she is having fun jet skiing. But the greatest part is this enabled her to take on a lot more work because she was no longer the bottleneck in the business. So the profits that came in from her business succeeding, she then used to lay down as a deposit to buy her dream home in Florida. And here you can see the image where she posted on her Instagram about being able to finally move to Florida. Isn't it incredible? Like, what made that possible was understanding how to make requests and then give people the opportunity to accept, decline, or counter offer, and then work with them to design or create whatever it was that they needed to fulfill their role and succeed. How's that, Manjula? It's
interesting. She recognized that she was the bottleneck. And, you know, I think that holding up the mirror and accepting that you may be the problem on occasion.
Yeah. And she couldn't see it. She said, she always thought, oh, you're like my staff, they're really bad at what they do. They don't do things properly. They don't do things on time. And it's most of the time, it's always something missing in our own leadership. That's what she discovered. And one of the things was instead of saying, you know, if you don't do this on time, I'm going to have to find somebody else. And, you know, you're going to have to replace you. You know, she'd get angry time and say things that were quite ineffective. And then when she realized, like, that just has a completely backwards effect, and learned how to lead people with the freedom to choose, it made us so much easier to work with. And then she, you know, was able to work as a team with them. Great. Okay. So delegation element 4.
We need to hop, skip and jump because someone's just had to leave for childcare, Dan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I haven't been watching the time. Okay. Accountability, ensuring your team members succeed. So holding team members to account. So what it needs is agreement on who's accountable, tracking requests and promises, and regular short meetings or calls for reporting. And if you hold people to account, then you can ensure their success. If you don't make a request and leave them run to it, you can't ensure their success. So here's Lana Shepherd. And when I worked with her, she'd been trying to sell her business for 7 years. And it's funny, she's an accountant and was finding it difficult to hold people to account. But we worked together, and this is what we discovered she was doing. She wasn't holding her team members to account. So she was having to wade in, do a lot of the work, do a lot of the accounting to make sure it was all delivered on time. And she was just burnt out. She couldn't keep up with it. But when she started to hold her team members to account, to make requests, agree by when things were going to get done, she was starting to be able to rely on them. And she didn't realize this was all that was missing. But in the 9 months, she delegated 90% of her workload away because she was testing out holding people to account, making a request, and then having them run with it. And then she sold her business for over 440,000. That was a few months after that. And the reason why she could sell her business was because she delegated 90% of her workload away. Without actually delegating it away, she wasn't able to sell it because she was constantly having to be part of the business. It's like you only have a business to sell when you're not completely, involved in it. Does that make sense, Manjula?
I've worked with somebody actually, and so, all of your businesses, you need to think about the exit strategy almost at the entrance phase, and make sure your business will run on its own without you there. Otherwise, it doesn't become something that you can sell. And, let's face it, some of you will be making much more money in your businesses, in your firms, than you are likely to make as a judge. So, that's, I guess, option B. If you're not able to continue running it, you've got to think about how you're going to make it saleable, have it in a condition to sell.
Yeah, well said. And I was delighted. I got this message from her. It said the sale was finalized 4:42 p.m. yesterday. Bank financing confirmed. So that was lovely to receive that. So delegation element number 5. So acknowledgement, the most powerful training. So effective acknowledgement tells someone exactly what they did well. Well done, John, for delivering that by 3 p.m. And you included this, this, and this. The client was really happy. And as a result of that, the client will be coming back to us for more work. You're being seen as good at what you do, and it's opening more and more doors for you in the future. Yeah. And it's even better when it's done in front of others. So if you acknowledge somebody in your team in front of the rest of the team get what is good, what is right. And then it causes everybody else in the team to start doing more of what that individual has been acknowledged for in front of them. This is so powerful. Many people in business are very quick to say, you've messed it up. You've not done it right. You need to redo it. That's wrong. Redo this. Sort that out. That's a mess. And they forget to acknowledge. And yet it's the acknowledging that has a much more powerful training effect in leading a team in the right direction to do things in the way that you want and on time without you having to micromanage them than anything else. It's acknowledgement, not telling people what they did wrong, but what they did right and pointing it out. And finally, it's really good when acknowledgement is given before corrective instruction. So if somebody's made a mistake, say, look, well done for giving this a go. And you really applied yourself. And I know you really studied this, and that's great. And that's going to get you far. At the same time, I wanted to point out some things you can do to improve this even more. So before you get into that, start with acknowledgement. Before giving corrective instruction, start with an acknowledgement. And you'll be amazed how the corrective instruction gets taken on and implemented so much better. And then you find yourself not having to repeat yourself and stuff happens so much faster. And then finally, effective acknowledgement is given regularly. Like, give this regularly, and it makes your environment not a toxic one where people are scared of doing something wrong, but it makes your work environment a place where people thrive and show up amazingly. Manjula, what do you think?
Oh, this is an interesting one for me because it's about feedback. And, traditionally people have talked about the SHIT sandwich. Give something positive, have the stuff in the middle, negative, then positive, then negative. And by doing it, positive before corrective instruction makes it a bit of an open sandwich, I'd argue. But the one tip that I think seems to work really readily is watch out for positive action or behaviors. And when try and catch people doing the right things, because then it makes it easy to give that acknowledgement and praise and gratitude. If you catch people doing the right thing, then it's easier on both sides. And like you say, definitely regularly, sometimes you don't need to put the corrective action in at the same time if you're doing it regularly, because if you're having one-to-ones regularly, then, that's an opportunity to have any little wash-ups on things, but just on the whole, on a day-to-day basis, make it part and parcel of your communication.
Yeah, brilliant. Really well said. Make it a day-to-day part of your communication. Yeah. Shouldn't be something you do on the odd occasion. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. And I mean, when I do feedback as well, I coach people to say there's a proportion of positive to constructive or development feedback. So look up Mr. Gottman, John Gottman, I think he was in the whole area of marriage counseling. So 3 what went well comes from his work. 3 positives, things that work well, www, 3 of those, in balance with only 1 even better if, will maintain that self-esteem. Even actually 5 positives to 1 constructive, it will foster a much healthier culture again. But sometimes it's really hard to find 5 great things you can say in comparison to 1 constructive.
It is a practice, definitely.
And
like,
you need to prioritize those, you know.
Yeah, it's like you end up just learning. Well, they showed up today. They just turned up at work.
Yeah,
that's it. You know. Yeah,
it
really
can
good.
be for some, you know.
So Kathy came to me a few months ago. Same story: burnt out, exhausted, team not doing what they're told. And here's her team, and she basically works in PR, which is very fast paced. And she and her team would communicate her clients' successes in launching their startup businesses within the tech industry across LinkedIn, media, and everywhere else. And what she found was that, again, she'd have to review a lot of their work and redo a lot of it before it got released to clients. And she was starting to get angry and telling people what they're doing wrong. And especially Claire, David, and Rosie, as you can see, one's a journalist, senior writer, junior writer. It was all the ones that had to do the heavy writing, were the ones that she couldn't seem to just do things properly. And what we noticed was that she was just never acknowledging either them for whenever they did do something right, or the rest of his team members, the rest of her team members. So she took on acknowledging on a regular basis, and she said it was the weirdest, strangest thing to do. And she was worried that if she acknowledged her team members, that they might then ask for a pay rise or say, well, can't you see how good I am at my job? I want to now be paid more. And so because of that, she avoided acknowledging or telling people when they did things well. But she soon realized that actually the money was very separate to the satisfaction the people got. That what gave people the satisfaction wasn't the money, but it was feeling part of a team, feeling valued, feeling wanted, feeling respected. And all of that came from them feeling acknowledged by her. And as a result of that, she sent me this message, just ticked over 300K in expected revenue for this year. And we haven't hit the craziest month for new business yet. So she hit 300,000 yearly target in August. That's 4 months early, and said she's now likely to hit 500,000 by the end of the year in sales. And she says the reason why that was possible was because her team now just do all the work. They just get on with it. And what we agreed was one of the major factors for that was the fact she just started acknowledging them for when they did things right. Isn't that incredible? Absolutely incredible. Manjula, what do you think?
That's great. I'm going to have to rush you on, Dan, because I think people are going to need to get off.
Okay,
brilliant.
So that's the summary. Gain loyalty based on foundation of listening. Straight request, if it's not clear, won't get done. Freedom to choose. Without freedom, it's manipulation. Accountability, ensuring your team members succeed, and acknowledgement, the most powerful training. So that's it. If you want to read this in depth, you've been emailed it by Manjula. Add me on LinkedIn. I'd love to be connected. So you can just search me there. Or if you like, send me a message and I'd be happy to get on a quick call with you and find out more about your business and tell you more about what I do. That's it. Thank you, Manjula. Sorry I went over time. I should have had a timer up.
That's all right, Dan. Thank you.